Hey, Demon Dev here, and I'm going to jump into doing some of the more complex possibilities within the Electra engine system as far as writing complex conversations. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a very specific premise. I think that's the best way to go. Just go as rich as you can with a writing conversation and then bring in the dynamic properties and extend and allow for all sorts of player interactions and possible AI reactions. So this conversation is a kind of standard "what are we" sort of situation. You've made out with Poppy during the occult club meeting. There's only 2 members, it's just you and her. So you had the privacy, and now the player is maybe wondering whether you're going to start to date or whether it was more of a fling under kind of exciting circumstances. So the second club is over. You're walking home to maybe the subway together, and she says hi as you're walking, and you say, "Hey, can I ask you something?" The most dangerous non-question question. Um, and maybe she says, she kind of hesitates for a second. I love using ellipses for hesitation with the way that the system in game works. And then maybe she says, uh, of course. Do you want to date me? Being a little bit direct here. And maybe she's being a little bit of a little evasive. So maybe she says, well, clearly I don't mind kissing you now and then. um, to which maybe you say, I don't, uh, I don't mind either. Um, so would you want to go out some, go out for food sometime or something? Maybe she's again teasing you, making you work for it a little bit, and says something like, "Oh, food sometime," or something. Okay, fine. Do you want to grab dinner Friday and go see a movie? And let's wrap this up so we can get into the fun, complex stuff. Uh, okay, sure. Maybe give it one more. The player is feeling very insecure, which they are in this playthrough. Maybe they say something like, "Okay, sure, like you want to," or "Okay, sure, you just will. You're just fine with it." Maybe she's nice here. 1, 2. Let's go. Yeah, okay. Let's wrap this up here. Maybe she'll say, I'll see you then, and then she just kind of runs off or something like that to not drag out the conversation any longer. So, what do we do now? So, this is the kind of standard writing. The important thing that I think should be here is a very simpler interface. So, you can just say who's talking and what are they saying back and forth with the player in a completely linear texting conversation system. But now we're just going to go ahead and skip over to deep and bring in some of the more complex elements. So by default, I should actually really default the AI responses to 5, not 0. But yeah, so by default, all the AI options are 0. But we'll fix that real quick. So when she says hi, she's not reacting to anything, so that's a pretty balanced thing. When you say, "Hey, can I ask you something?" Maybe being a little bit timid and serious. Yeah, humble is pretty good. Serious and timid. And of course, the top bar is double damage you could think of, or twice as strong of an emotion. So we're talking about a double serious, single timid. Twice as serious as you are timid here would be vulnerable. I think that matches. And then her reaction. Let's say this is actually a pretty neutral or positive reaction. Not sure if it's getting the react source. Let's do. Oh, yeah, okay, it is. Um, so she's just concentrated, and that's so what you can see is her reaction here is the tone reaction. So the tone reaction metric is taking into account the bond, which is actually hidden. I should expose that as well. But the bond is your friendship relationship. So 0 to 10 starts at a 5. You start at a neutral, and that comes straight into this rating calculation. So the rating starts at a 5 with bond, but then it adds in her reaction to your vulnerable emotions. So serious and timid end up causing the reaction to go from a 5, which is your starting bond, to a 3. Now, we've only written one option for the AI to decide to. So even though she'd rather be where this kind of point starts, the closest option she has that says that's what she'll say. So her reaction is that. Um, and then I think, of course, it's probably more of the same. It's the same kind of a reaction. Do you want to date me? Maybe this is a little bit more confident. Yeah, I think reckless kind of matches there. Um, so she really doesn't like that. She hates dumb and confident, apparently. That's dropping the rating all the way to a 0. Is that right? Oh my gosh. She really doesn't like that. Um, so in this case, let's back up a little bit. So she's going to be reacting on charm because this is do you want to date me is asking her basically if she's attracted to you. So up until now, it's been mostly reacting to the relationship. A vague question is her reacting to the relationship. So let's just go ahead and hard set the spark value, which is an old term for respect or attraction, to a 4 out of 10. So not as strong as your friendship, but there's still something there. Okay. So you can see with a bond reaction, she hates reckless. But in the context of a respect calculation, she actually really appreciates you being more direct. And this is, I think, something that's true to real life, which is that depending on the situation, you're going to use different factors to make your decision. If someone's, asking you for a favor, like, "Oh, can I borrow $10?" That's probably going to be more on your friendship. Just doing them a kindness. That's not a big deal. If you think that it's worth it. But if someone is like, "Hey, do you want to go out with me?" Then you're like, "Well, am I attracted to this person? Do I respect this person?" Those kind of variables are coming into play. So your expression actually, it's not just about her personality in terms of how she feels towards you. across the board, it depends on the context. So, in the context of romance, she's appreciating a little bit more of a cavalier attitude. So, she loves this actually. Uh, let's say that this reaction is a 7. And what I'm doing with these reaction scores is basically what I'm saying is the written response that I've made here. Clearly I don't mind kissing you. Um, this option right here, how would how would I label that as far as the game could understand it? Because the game can't understand the sentences, and I specifically designed the system with that in mind. Trying to break down sentences into meaning is, I think, a waste of time. It's probably possible, but not for a really long time, and not at the kind of richness that we experience stories and relationships in, with lots of different wordings or even the same wordings can mean vastly different things. So I'm focusing on the core numbers, math meaning of things. Anyways, so I think this is a 7 out of 10 on the reaction. She's flirting with you. She's being a little bit teasy, but it's really positive. And this is her being sassy, but again, her being sassy is not actually negative. Uh, maybe not as much as stating out in the open that she likes to kiss you, but yeah, okay. So I don't mind either. This is maybe you being a little bit funny and a little bit, yeah, timid. Yeah, I think playful matches that pretty well. And then let's see. So would you want to go for food sometime or something? Is maybe uh this is really straight to the point. So maybe it's a little bit more serious and confident. Yeah, determined, I think matches. And again, I'm describing the text. So I write the text because that's what I'm thinking or inspired by. And then afterwards, and this is just my style, you can write the emotion first and the text second. I think that's a really fun way to use the Electra engine. There's, I think, 169 different descriptive words for just player expression and something closer to like 100 for the AI's reactions. So you could be very much inspired by these two sliders. And because they're broken up into components, serious confident is a relatively simple enough concept that you can, I think, be inspired to write some cool stuff and consider some things that you maybe not be thinking about otherwise. Anyways, she's being a little bit sassy. So maybe that is impatient here. And you want to think it can be difficult to get in this mindset, but with the Electra engine, you want to think in the context of the situation. So 0 out of 10 is not I hate your guts. 10 out of 10 is not I love you, I would die for you. It's in the conversation of who is this character? Who is Poppy? And how could she react to you saying, so would you want to go for food sometime or something? The worst reaction is um, that's the least appealing. Um, that's the least appealing offer of a date I've ever heard. Would maybe be like the worst thing she could say or think of in the moment. And the best thing she could say would be like, "I love food sometimes something. That's my favorite thing," or I don't know, something even, that might be the most positive reaction you could have though. So she's teasing you. Maybe she's a little impatient. So that makes sense here. Uh Okay, fine. Maybe just getting smart here, and being a little bit more confident. I think fearless match confident, and that counts as like 3x confident. So double confident is the primary tone, and then a single confident is the secondary tone. So okay, sure. Yeah, positive. I think spirited kind of matches. Not as strong as some of the other ones. Okay, so okay, sure. Like you want to, or okay, sure, you're just fun with it. This is you being pretty. Um, what would I say? Insecure. Uh, maybe. let's see. Serious and timid, maybe? Vulnerable? Yeah. Maybe something more like, yeah, I guess that's kind of a smart thing to think of. It's not a smart thing to say in the context, but the thought behind it as far as like you're trying to make a subtle distinction. Um, maybe this is maybe loving is a bit too strong. Your relationship isn't there yet, but maybe she does care about you. So that would be a reaction there. And you can see there's a really, really cool thing happening here, which is one of my favorite parts about the Electra engine system, is the reaction word she's using is based on the primary tone that you use. So if the primary tone of what you say is timid, she's reacting really positively to timid. Oh, you're being some sort of insecure or like hesitant. Well, that's the word that came, but you could see who helped put it together. Me and a few other people, but loving is the most positive, and the next most negative is fierce. Like she's really frustrated with how um, hesitant you're being, or pained at a more like negative, but not completely 0 out of 10 scale. Or accepting is more neutral. You can see these different categories, and I think they really should resonate as you play through. We'll play through in just a second. Okay, I'll see you then. Uh, yeah. Okay. Cool. So we've assigned this is a purely linear conversation right now, and I think we should take a moment to appreciate how that can still feel really cool. So linear means there aren't any player options. So all we're going to be doing is essentially appreciating what's already written. So let's go through that. If it'll load. Should have done a quick save first, but it should be okay. It just takes slightly longer to load. All right, cool. So she says hi, and that pops up the chat interface. So hey, can I ask you something? This is us being vulnerable, and let's just assume we have full knowledge of her personality, so we're getting a full readout on how her reaction. She's going to be a little bit of, it's going to boost her attraction slightly. She appreciates emotions, but it's going to lower her capacity to be attracted. That's a complicated interaction that I'll explain more in depth later, but if it's a point of conflict for her, she will snap up, and then it's also reducing another capacity to be attracted. So let's just send that because we don't have any other options. She doesn't have any options, but we can see that there's a middle reaction is being selected. She's thinking. She's reacting again to us being vulnerable. And then she says, of course. All right, so now we say, do you want to date me? And we can see in the context of it being a respect calculation, she really likes this, even though she wouldn't in another context. Oh, I don't think I have it linked up correctly. So it's reacting as if it was a regular friendship consideration. So she would hate that if I was using the reckless tone in casual conversation. Well, clearly I don't mind kissing you now and then. I don't mind either. And you can see all these cool things. So we're seeing the emotions that we're expressing in the bottom here. And we can see this is her internal thought process being visualized. We're getting the base emotion. This is starting at like a 5. It seems a little bit higher than a 5, but and then she's reacting to it in 2 stages. The first stage being the primary tone, secondary stage being the secondary tone. She's being sassy, so you've got a factual option to get serious about this and come out and say it. Okay. I mean, we've already come out and say it in a way, but being more direct about assigning a date, a specific time and place, or more specific, we're still being a little bit vague, but we've at least got a time, Friday dinner, and a type of thing, a movie. So I'm going to put that down, and she's going to react to that, and we'll see. That should be a smiley face, so I got to fix that too. But okay, sure. Like you want to, or okay, sure, you're just fine with it. Yeah, so you can see we're being a little bit more hesitant and and she's being caring. And again, reacting with that. And then running off maybe so that she can get out of what could be an awkward conversation to continue. All right, so now we're going to do the quick save or stop playing it, do a quick save, get back to business. So this has been purely linear. Where do we go from here? So, well, now that we've already set these things in the deep tab, we can start to add some player expressions. That's the kind of easy next step that limits your branching, which is the more difficult thing to kind of stay on top of in a dialogue or narrative branching game. So we'll start easy. So what's another way we can say, hey, can I ask you something? Um, hey, can I ask you something? Uh, do you have a minute to talk? That's a little bit more negative. But maybe it's, let's say, vulnerable, serious, and timid. Do something. Do you have a minute to talk? It's probably a little bit more confident of an option. Yeah, being more direct. Maybe we'll add another option. Oh, oops, we added a branching option. These are branching options up top here, and these are emotional options. So let's add another emotional option, and maybe you're being a little bit more aggressive here. We need to talk about something, or maybe just we need to talk. Um, it's a little bit passive aggressive, but we need to talk is kind of rude. Yeah, it's a little bit rude. Doesn't makes her sound like she's in trouble. I kind of like that. So yeah, so what's already happened here is we can see as we scrub through the different dialogue options, it's automatically recalculating the AI's reaction in real time. So I've got this visual down here that shows you the rating. Think of that as the true math of her personality. She's taking your past relationship, which would be the bond here. The bond is a 5 by default, but maybe in this situation it'd be a little bit different. But let's just go with that for now. So she's taking the relationship, which is the bond, the friendship, and then she's adding to it her personality's reaction to your emotional expression. So you're expressing this idea, trying to talk to her about something, kind of an ominous situation for anyone, I think. You're bringing this up in a vulnerable way. That vulnerable brings her from a 5 to a 3. Maybe I should have had an additional line to show you the exact math, but I think the slider kind of visualizes it well. And you can see as we tab through different things, she really doesn't like confident and serious. She has mild dislike for serious and timid. And she also doesn't like rude. So, and that's true to real life. Sometimes it can be fine to find, sometimes it can be hard to find a way to express yourself because of what you want to say. We can't always find a nice way to fire someone. Maybe it can be done, and maybe me as a writer or the writer that I'm working with will find ways to do stuff like that. I'm sure in some situations we will, but not always. And sometimes that can even be a strategic decision in writing or in story crafting. Anyways, so let's go with just these three options for now for the player. They're all of these are talking. You could add a completely separate branch. So this is talking. This is maybe you're specifically choosing to not engage the discussion of how into how into you is she really. Um, so I heard that you like to write short stories. So this could be a completely different topic, obviously, than where you're going with this. But let's ignore that for now. So within these options, there's multiple ways to express yourself. So, how's her reaction? So dot 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 might actually be a somewhat positive reaction here. Let's go ahead and add another option. So maybe this other option and it automatically resorts them. So based on the 0 to 10 scale, because it's a little bit easier to understand as you add more and more and more. So maybe, which would match the fact that she does not like wherever you're taking this conversation. Maybe she's like, well, is kind of indicating something of a more negative. And then maybe maybe even worse than that is I don't know. I don't know. um yeah. Okay. So if you say it in a vulnerable way, she hates that the least. And so she's going to be reacting. You can see it snapping to 3, which is the impatient one here. So if you're vulnerable, she'll say, well, if you're direct, she'll say, I don't know. Pretty negative. Let's do all next. Um, and then you don't have the relationship in order for her to just treat you with a little bit of silence first. And then so next she'll say, of course, is her reacting very positively. Now this is her reacting to the same thing. So so it's also a really negative. What she wants to say is really negative, or as negative as it can be. Um Maybe let's just add one. It says, I'm listening. Or what did you want to talk about? Is a much more reserved or skeptical. I think actually fits this really well. I think people will be surprised how well the reactive dictionary for the AI to have a terrible, bad, decent, or great response to what you're saying, how well it matches with the primary tone of what the player said and then where they're going from there. Anyways, skeptical, I think, works really well here. Do you want to date me? Well, clearly I don't mind kissing you. This takes a turn. So at this point, we started saying, do you want to date me? And now we're selecting from a from a metric that is the respect, that is her attraction to you. So even though her reaction, let's see, if it was tone, would be, because we're doing a similar kind of a tone as like the rude, I guess, from up there. Dumb and confident, she really doesn't like the options we've given the player so far. So we should be more fair to the player. But if these were the only options, she would really not like them. But since you've asked them in a romantic context, she does appreciate directness in a romance, which a lot of people do. Not everyone, but a lot of people can respect some confidence in such a tricky realm. Anyways, she likes that. What if she doesn't like it? Well, um, if she's being kind of sassy and maybe hinting that she's going to say no, maybe she would say something like, something like, eh, ooh, do we have to do this? Oh, that hits like a truck, maybe. Um, do we have to do this? And then maybe this branches off completely. This is such a negative reaction. Um, so it's such a negative reaction that maybe we even drop it lower than that. At the very bottom of unimpressed. And we say, and she'll chain directly from this to a completely separate branch, is what this represents. Um, and she'll say, and here's a really crazy thing that you can do with this system. So she reacts to you asking her out in a kind of timid, weird way with the, do you want to date me? Well, I guess it is kind of direct. Um, So she reacts to how she feels about you attraction wise, but then she can chain that response. And that's one of the really cool things about being able to break up essentially, one string of talking, but there's so many ideas. You can break up the ideas and have them systematized into the game this way. So now maybe she reacts based on your friendship. So in this case, of course, she reacts very positively to your recklessness. Maybe, okay, let's edit it real quick. If we set the starting relationship of her respect for you all the way to a 0, she's really not feeling it for the player. Um, then you can see she's no longer snapping up to, well, clearly I don't mind kissing you, which is this whole other branch. Now the rating selection is, oh, do we have to do this? Because she's really not attracted to you enough. So now she goes from here to reacting to your friendship. Um, I really do care about you. Maybe she's trying to soften the blow. And let's see, it's giving me a rating 0. So she really doesn't like the way that you're expressing yourself. What does she like? She likes smart, and she likes clean. What else does she like? She really likes smart. She likes smart and unique. Okay, so if we could come up with a creative way. Um, you thought about um, what it would look like if we were together? Kind of a weird way to say it. Well, let's say maybe we could write that a little bit better, but let's you're being creative here. So a really interesting thing happens where so okay, it looks like she really likes that in an attraction way too. So that is something that she respects on both sides. But let me see if there's anything we can say. Yeah. Okay. So let's say if this fits, then and we can see these metrics going in different directions. So a crazy thing you could do here. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit lost in the sauce, but a crazy thing we can do here, and this wouldn't be true for all AIs, but might be true for some, is she's reacting to respect. So she's like, "Oh, I don't want to date you," is what's going on in her head right here. But then she's like, "But I feel bad because we're good friends." So she's now basing it off of that. So let's import some more. Let's say the relationship is a little bit more wild, and maybe I'll add a little button at top to simulate this. Let's say your friendship is like an 8 out of 10. She is like best friends with you. Um, so you can see that the rating. Let's see if we set this to -1, it'll be a little bit more clear. Um, oh, I guess it only selects that. Never mind. Let's set it back to auto. So if your relationship is an 8, even with the slight negative of whatever you're saying, she still wants to react at a 7.6. But her respect and attraction for you is super low. It's a 0. So even if you say something in a way that she's attracted to, like she's attracted to the reckless in the context of context of asking her out, of becoming romantically involved, she loves you being reckless, but she's not attracted to you. That's a shame. She has a great friendship with you. She doesn't appreciate you being so reckless here. Maybe it makes her extra uncomfortable since she's rejected you. So she chains these two together. So what this represents is like a totally crazy thing. He's not just considering you from 2 points of view, but smashing them together. She is saying she's trying to let you down softly and be like, "Oh, I don't want to have to reject you in a more direct way than this." and then also trying to encourage you on the friendship side of things. So, and you can continue these chains, but let's go back to the first one. So clearly, I don't mind kissing you. This would be a complete impossibility. No matter, reckless she really likes, oblivious she really doesn't like. So, or maybe she only likes a little bit. Actually, I think you started at 0, so that's still a slight positive. And we can even fish for the most positive. So, what is the thing that she likes the best? Is smart and friendly? Is that what she likes? Smart and smart seem to do the trick. Um, does that really give you a 10? I don't know. Maybe I need to balance some of the numbers here. Wow. So if we give you something super intelligent to say, if you can find an extremely intelligent way to say, then she'll just always say yes. So then maybe that would be a reason that you do or don't give the player an option like that. I think that might be a little bit imbalanced. So there's some tuning tools to see just how far you want to go with that. Or maybe the correct way to deal with this is actually just to say that um awakened. Um is just to say that this is relatively unreachable level of reaction. Wow. So yeah, so if you say something that is smart and timid, then then you can get a rating all the way up to a 9.6. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. That's totally imbalanced. I'll have to work on that. But you can see, and a lot of these are numbers games and stuff like that. The kind of crazy relationships that you can manage purely through math and then just right on the other side. So you could have one person just be the writer and do all that on this end, and then you could have a programmer or maybe more of a hybrid interact with adding these different number systems and then compress it back to them and see what they think. One of the cool things that I've recently added to collaborate with a writer of my own is just a quick way to convert different exchange to a really digestible format for writers. So that's really cool too, and I think that's important. You can let me switch to. It might actually just be only exporting the first options. Let's see what happens if I switch. Oh, I see. So because it's on the one option, let me see if that changes anything. Oh, it looks like it does. Okay. Right. So it should export your currently selected options. So you can see all this coming out here. And yeah, so that should help with collaborating, no matter what the background is. I don't have an importing back in option, and maybe that's not possible with the system, but you can see, wow, you can balance what the player is expressing, and all the different combinations of relationships will be automatically handled by the system and even described through these different descriptive reactive words. So I'm really, really excited to see other people mess around with this, but I'm certainly having a really fun time with it myself. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you again soon.